He must have some sixth sense because it was almost like in that moment he called and it was like Elon Musk on my caller ID. It's an unhealthy process. You just get so immersed in it, right? So now it's like Elon's in my dreams. I don't know what the publishers will do. Will they get my back? Will they not? He might actually bankrupt me. Not only am I not going to help you, but I'm going to write my own book. We started with like 4 or 5 people that had never made a TV show before, and we ended up getting nominated for an Emmy. We're like looking for elves on our way to the Northern Lights with this like sci-fi guys fighting. Well, I had the best job in media.
Yeah.
I just got an email before I came. I think I just got Freeway Waymo.
Oh, damn it. I want that. I want that.
I've only been riding in self-driving cars since like 2015.
Have you done it on the freeway?
I did the first ever Zooks.
Yeah.
I drove from Palo Alto to San Francisco like 8 years ago or something. Yeah. I mean,
back in those days, it would have felt like real risk.
Yeah, I mean, they had a driver like just in case. So it's okay, but the craziest one I did was George Hotz when he built his car by himself, and I was like with him. We went on the freeway, and I was like, "What was it like the first time you did this?" He's like, "This is the first time." I was like, "What?" And the car was like, when we'd go around a curve, it was like fucking just like hugging it so intensely, man. I was like, "What, dude? You told me you'd been like it."
This is when he's doing his like hacky self-driving.
But he hadn't revealed it yet.
Yeah, so you broke that.
I broke that story, and
I thought it was him just tweeting crazy shit.
He's like, "I'm so glad you called. I have built a self-driving car in my garage by myself, and I've been wanting to tell somebody about it." And I was like, "Great, dude!" And then that's actually how I started doing that was the first video I ever shot.
What do you want to order?
I feel like we have no choice but to do Fred's special.
Enjoy.
Thank you. All right, mate.
All right. I'm not going to shot it.
Okay.
Cheers.
You sure?
Well, I'm
be on camera.
I'm not totally sure.
All right.
A hearty sip. Well, that's...
What do you say in New Zealand for cheers? Cheers.
We say cheers. Yeah, it's a New Zealand idiom we have. We've developed it over centuries.
I didn't know if you idiots had come up with something special.
You're technically South African, aren't you?
Well, I can call you an idiot because my mom is Australian, so I'm half Aussie.
Half Aussie.
Yeah, and I just spent this weekend, I was in Mexico with some Kiwi guy at a bar who was just railing on Australians the whole time, so I feel like I've got to kick some back, but I was born in South Africa. Yeah.
Right, yeah, so born in South Africa, Australian mother, but American
father.
heart.
Yes, yeah, well, I don't know, I always felt like mixed up, you know? Yeah, I spent a lot of time going to Australia as a kid because our family was a lot bigger there.
Where'd you go in Australia?
We went to Sydney. Yeah, so I had, my grandfather was there, all my aunts and uncles, and yeah, I don't know, when I was growing up, I don't know, you kind of like felt cool to be sort of part Australian, and then South Africa I left when I was pretty young, and then we would go back, so that one was always a little in my South Africa.
But you're an international gentleman.
So we traveled a lot. My parents got shipped, I moved around constantly, so that was always stuck in my soul.
No wonder you're always disappearing to exotic countries to do shows and write books. And kind of stuff.
That part was like forged into the identity as a youngster.
But in contrast to that international lifestyle, you live in the great suburb of Mountain View.
I do. Wow. First of all, Mountain View is very nice.
Mountain View is lovely. Great bars.
Yes. And I mean, I kind of grew up in the burbs, so that's not that different. For a while, I lived in the Tenderloin of San Francisco. Then I lived downtown Chicago, so I had some city life. When we moved to Mountain View, I was a little worried about it being too sedate, but it's a good place to raise a family. It's very sunny. I like to play tennis. You can play in shorts and t-shirt all year, pretty much.
You've written about tennis a bit as well, haven't you?
I have. When I get past this tech era, I will become a tennis journalist.
Yeah,
I think.
That sounds way nicer.
Yes.
Why are we here? This is Fred's Place. It's an iconic bar, I believe, in Mountain View.
It is. I mean, I could wax on about this for a while. I'll try to condense it a little bit.
It doesn't matter if this takes up most of the interview. That's fine.
I mean, first of all, it's a dive, and I spent most of my early to mid 20s in the Tenderloin, just bonding with dive bars. It was like part of my lifestyle.
Part of your journalistic upbringing.
Yeah, like any good journalist. Yeah. I know people the youth is different now.
No,
but
they're different. They were all stoned and not drinking at dive bars anymore, and then moralizing to us about how booze is bad.
Yeah, but as you would probably know, I mean, part of the time I wrote for The Register, which was this British publication. So anyway, pub life and being a journalist was like
The Register was a tabloidy tech publication at
100%. It's probably
UK?
still is. Yeah. Like total. It was kind of like a blog and a newsletter before such things really. It started as a newsletter actually,
really?
about semiconductors, and then grew into a website. It was one of the first like things to go online. Yeah. So,
but the reason you talk about the correlation with the dive life, it's kind of gossipy and voicey, right?
100%. Every time I would go to London, you just hang out with all the journos at the bar for hours and hours, and it was just all part of the culture. Yeah, and that was like right in the tabloid style. And then, so I like dive bars. Fred's has been here, I think, for like 60 years or something, going back to the 50s. And down the road, probably about, I don't know, a mile from here is where Fairchild Semiconductor was, which was like the first real semiconductor company.
Do you think those guys were big boozers?
So they were. They've been here going back that far. And then Fairchild, Robert Noyce and Gordon Moore, who started Intel, they worked at Fairchild, then they started Intel. And then the very, very, very first semiconductor facility, which was Shockley Semiconductor Labs, right after the transistor was invented, was about like 2 miles from here. And so
crazy.
There's always been this part of Silicon Valley culture that I like, which is they were boozers. And so as the chip industry was like starting to explode and Silicon Valley was becoming Silicon Valley, there was this cool thing where they were pushing the limits of physics, they were pushing the limits of chemistry, they were all super competitive at their companies, but they, as like engineers are wont to do, they couldn't help themselves but come to the bar, reveal how they had just gotten past some thing that was challenging the whole industry, and they would all share this knowledge, and then the whole industry would move forward. And it reminds, like, this carries on to today, because even though you have like AI companies that are in this multi-trillion-dollar life and death
those guys
struggle,
don't go to bars, dive bars.
they don't, but they meet up, and then they all share their
minimalist
techniques.
coffee shops.
Yes, they like do high yoga and then share how they, they same thing though. It's like, how did you figure this thing out? So I thought when you reached out, I was like, okay, this bar will be symbolic of these roots and traditions.
I just remembered something about you. Despite my extensive research preparing for this interview, before you wrote any other books, you wrote a book about the history of Silicon Valley.
Yeah. When I was in my 20s, I was at the Register, and I just got a phone call from some publisher, and they're like, we want to do a travel guide of Silicon Valley. And I was like, I don't really fully want to do that, but I want to do like a historical travel. I wanted to learn about the place. And so they paid me like $5,000. And
in those days, that's enough to buy a house.
I still have not. I still don't think I've earned out on that. And so I just thought it was like this awesome excuse. So I started reading everything, all the semiconductor history, all the biographies I could. And then I went and I spent like, I don't know how long it was, like a year and a half running around. I got to like, it's kind of cool because I bridged these two eras. I got to Gordon Moore. I got to like all the old chip heads. I did like the history of Sun Microsystems, sort of got this foundation and then learned all about the place. Yeah.
And were you a tech person before that? Like you were a tennis guy, it sounds like.
No, like growing up, I was not. I was a philosophy major at college. I was not like full Luddite, but I was definitely not techie. And I just happened to like get into the tech trade press. I needed a job coming out of school as a philosophy major. I had wanted to live in San Francisco. I'd sort of found this job at Information Week magazine, which I'm not sure if it still exists in a magazine form, but and then they threw me in the deep end doing semiconductor servers, storage, all this stuff.
The real stuff.
Yeah, the real stuff. And then when you start doing interviews on that, it's embarrassing if you don't know anything. So then I started like reading the textbooks, all that. And then I was like, oh, I'm kind of like interested in this. Yeah.
You gave yourself a hard job because as someone from an arts background, you have to figure out how to speak to engineers whose brains tend to work differently to the people that we usually hang out with.
100%. But then that ended up being like the path I took, I think, because when I first became a journalist, obviously the objective your bosses want is for you to get the big interview with Bill Gates or whoever, and that was fine. And then most of your stories, you end up talking to some senior vice president of whatever, and they always say like the totally same thing. It's all very manicured. And then I found that when you talk to the engineers, they were more likely to actually tell you good stuff. And then if you could speak to them in some kind of vaguely coherent way that you at least could pretend you know what was going on, then I found they would like respect you and they would leak you all kinds of information.
So did you feel like you had to become an anthropologist of how the engineer mind works, or did you naturally do that?
I just kind of gravitated to, because, well, first of all, when you first started speaking to the engineers, it was like, oh, they're less scripted than these other people. And so that was just refreshing, because the other conversations was like worthless to even sort of have it. You know, I knew what they were going to say. Yeah. And so I think I just liked them better. And then the more I started nerding out, I was like, oh, this is really interesting. And then the more I nerded out, the more they were like, oh, you at least kind of vaguely know what's going on. And then by the time I got to the Register, we did super nerdy stuff, and so then they were like, oh, if I'm going to leak something, I'm going to leak it to this guy. And then that proved great. And then also half the people I think online thought I was a woman, and
they still think
they do, but it worked totally to my favor, because I think they were like, wow, she really knows about semiconductors. This is great. And like, I would get these late night emails like, hey, darling, here's some slides, and I wouldn't let them really know what was going on unless they forced the issue.
I'm going to jump ahead because your story is incredibly interesting and varied. But one of the things that really put you on the map, although you were already working at Bloomberg, you'd already worked for the New York Times, is that 10 years ago you published the first good biography of Elon Musk, which became a massive bestseller and a phenomenon in its own right. I have a whole lot of questions about it, of course. I was there with you. Like, we knew each other through while you were writing that, and then after you wrote it, because I went and wrote a book about Tesla. But I want to know what effect that had on your life. Is there a pre-Elon Musk biography life for Ashlee Vance, and is there a post life that is discernible?
That's funny. Like, nobody's ever asked me that.
What's the matter with people? This is an obvious question.
I mean, I've been doing, my career trajectory had been good and was sort of like steady going up. I'd gotten to the New York Times. I think I did a pretty good job there.
It's usually like the
sort
promised land.
And then I'd hopped over to Business Week just because Bloomberg had bought it, and they were letting you write these big, long magazine features, which is
also the dream.
Right. So I kind of was ticking all the boxes, and then that book it's funny, man. It's like one of those things where you're just writing a book because you're interested in it, and I don't know, I definitely wasn't fast forwarding through what was going to happen.
You knew a little bit though, because you must have approached Elon around 2012, 2013.
Yeah, 2012.
Predicting, knowing that this guy was always already a kind of a god in Silicon Valley and was going to be on a bigger stage.
I was definitely like betting that he was going to get better known. I didn't fast forward through all the repercussions of my life, or had definitely hope in your heart like this will be a bestseller, but I wasn't like this is gonna.
And this is after he had started SpaceX with his own money that he made from selling PayPal.
Not only
and taking Tesla to car of the year.
So the Model S has just come out. SpaceX had already gotten to the space station. I remember between when I sold the book and then my publisher was telling me, like, as we were getting close, I had no PR person from the publisher or anything. I was like, I think you guys are like underestimating. And then right, like 3 months before, the Simpsons did an entire episode about Elon. I was like, look, see, people, because they kept saying, no, he's just only Silicon Valley knows who he is. And I was like, no, I think you guys are like underestimating what's about to happen, And so then like a week before the book came out, we had run like an excerpt in Business Week, and I had broken a big story from the book about when Google had almost bought Tesla in the Amazon ranking, shot way up, and the publisher was like, oh, and then suddenly I had like a couple PR people, and then that morning I woke up and it was like 2 on the bestseller list, and I was like, oh my God, this is my little dream coming true. And then after that, it just opened all sorts of doors, just because, I don't know, books are funny things, man. They just seem to mark some kind of moment in people's head. I guess it's some sort of symbol of something you've accomplished, and
people take you seriously.
And then, there was some obvious things like where in Spaceland, which I was still interested in, everyone wanted to be like Elon. So if the Elon guy is showing up to interview you, that might mean you're on like the right track. And then similar for access to other big figures in tech, they're like, oh, well, it's kind of
if Elon let you in,
then like you must know what you're doing or something like that. So
which
yeah,
is accurate though.
yeah.
You did know what you were doing.
I did,
Back
and
then,
it's just
different
like
now.
it's funny how you're like, dude, I already worked at the New York Times. I've done all this stuff,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
for some reason you do this thing, and it helps seal the deal on
Yeah.
other stuff. Yeah.
You got a lot of access to Elon through the writing of that book. He gave you your time. It must have been hard to convince him to give you that time in the first place. And then afterwards, there were all sorts of like responses that have colored how your relationship with Elon has unfolded over the year. But you tell me about what that experience was like working on a book like that while getting access to the principal, and this particular kind of principal who's prickly.
Yeah, it was really strange. Well, I'd done a big magazine story on him, and that was the first time I'd met him, and we'd got along okay, and just felt like there was some kind of like rapport, and so that's what had sort of made me a little bit confident about doing the book. But then when I told him what I was doing, he's like, "No, I'm not going to participate," and he's like, "I'm not going to help you," and I was like, "Okay."
Did he say why?
Well, he had said like, "Oh, other people have asked me in the past," and I told him no, and I would feel bad if you did it now, and I was like, "Okay." And
Very sensitive to other people's feelings.
yes, yeah. That's in hindsight. My gut feeling was always he liked to control things, and this was like uncomfortable for him, and so then that was like our first chat, and I was like, "Okay, well, Elon, I bet if I actually just go sell the book and make it real, it'll shift from this abstract concept." So I did. I went to HarperCollins. I didn't tell them that I had access. I just told them what I wanted to do. I was like, I think I could get access. I was very upfront, and then I signed the contract, and then I went back to Elon. I met him at Tesla's headquarters on like a Saturday, and he's like, we had this long meeting. He's like, "No, I'm still not gonna," he sent me an email like an hour after I thought the meeting had gone great. I get back, there's already like an email waiting for me. He's like, "I'm not gonna help you." And then I started to hear, he's like, "Not only am I not gonna help you, but I'm gonna write my own book," And
So that's what prompted
yeah.
He's still got a $3 million book deal out there for his own biography.
Yeah,
right?
so he's like, "I'm gonna beat you with my own book, and this is how I'm gonna solve this problem." And then so I spent like 2 years interviewing hundreds of people. Huge chunks of them would call back to Elon, and I always thought it was going to work out okay because he wasn't actively telling people like not to talk to me. He wasn't making it like miserable, which would have made life a lot harder. But back then, he was already really litigious. People were really afraid of him. Nobody had ever written anything like really that was revealed. He was just kind of the weirdo and like a circus freak almost. And so I would come into all these meetings, and everyone's like, "He's going to sue me. I don't want to talk." It was hard, it was really hard for a couple of years. And then I was at home one day after doing this for 2 years. I was actually ready to start writing the book. I was like, I'm done with all my interviews. He must have some sixth sense, because it was almost like in that moment he called, and it was like Elon Musk on my caller IDs. I had a landline back then. And he's like, "You've been way more persistent than I ever imagined. I'll do interviews with you if I can, read the book before it comes out and make changes and stuff." I was like, "Well, I'm not gonna do that." I was like, "Let's have dinner and like hash out. We could get through this, And so it was one of those moments where you're like, he'll either say yes or no, and he just right there on the spot, he was like, "Okay, fine." And then he's like, "We'll do one interview a month for as long as you feel like you need," which was incredibly fair. So we used to meet for dinner once a month. Some of the dinners would be like an hour, some would be like 4. It just depended on his schedule and sort of how things were going. It was really funny, man. It was totally different days. We would just show up to restaurants in Mountain View, Palo Alto. He would walk in by himself, sit down at the table. Like he had a driver, but and I think the driver was like kind of driver and security, but he didn't even come in. And nobody really. I don't ever remember being in the restaurant and anybody noticing who he was or anything like that. And
they're like, who's this guy with this hot female journalist?
And he was super. He's kind of got like. He was, I would say, more awkward. But every conversation really took a little while to kind of get ramped up and get to some place. He was super. I write about it in the book. He was super awkward ordering. I almost always had to like order for us because he just. I don't know if he had people who did that or whatever. He just couldn't he'd either pick like everything on the menu or he just couldn't pick. And so I just got to lead the way, and then so it just went from there.
You timed it perfectly. That was Elon's hero era as well, 2015, before he got involved in politics when lots of people, he divided his audience a bit.
Yeah, he was still like, that was, I think, my book.
Don't forget your
yes,
bourbon over
yes.
there. Yeah.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Because it's kind of funny because you get people that are like, oh, you're too nice to him. And then some people are like, you're too mean. And he was different back then. That was like the first time anyone had really written about what a difficult boss he was to work with. I was unabashedly super into SpaceX and Tesla. That's like why I wanted to do the book. I was really into what they were doing, and like,
as are lots of people.
Yeah, I was a fan, still am. But that was the first time. It was like getting that information out of these people who were already so afraid that he would sue anybody. It was really hard to get these like work stories, and I felt like I laid that out there. But he was definitely not a political. There were these signs that he was like a difficult dude and complicated and all that, but not. There wasn't this like politics angle.
Yeah,
like he was kind of apolitical almost. Doing a biography was such a weirder experience than I ever imagined. You get so sucked into this one, like it's an unhealthy process. You spend
What do you mean?
Well, you spend 3 years of your life just thinking about this one human being.
This one dude who's not necessarily better than you.
Yeah, well, like you're interested in this person, or you wouldn't have done it. But it's like you're choosing to have an unhealthy obsession in something, and it goes on for so long that I would have dreams. You just get so immersed in it, right? So now it's like Elon's in my. I'm like, oh Jesus, man! Even at night, I can't get out of it. So by the time I was done, it's like I don't ever need to read anything about Elon ever again.
Yeah. Has Elon stopped being in your dreams?
Yes.
Okay, so you got a good book out of it. Sold 6 or 7 million copies. Pretty amazing results. What was his response like when it came out?
Oh man, it was funny because I did end up. I made sure all the books were like on boats heading to stores. It was about like 5 or 6 days before it was going to be in the store. I just wanted everything to be where he couldn't undo it, and like file a lawsuit and block it or something like that. So, but I did want. He at the end, he'd spent so much time. He'd been really fair, and it's like I felt like he should read it first because it just seemed like the right thing to do. So I sent him a PDF like the week before it came out. He had 2 things he was upset with. He's always been hung up that Mark Tarpenning and Martin Eberhard,
the original founders,
right? They would say they founded Tesla. Elon would say, okay, maybe. Well, Elon would say, no, I founded Tesla. When you look at it, they had filed this paperwork. They were working on Tesla. Would Tesla exist without Elon? Definitely not, right? But
especially not in the way that it currently exists.
No way. And so I remember in the fact-checking process with Elon, I was like, Elon, I am going to say that Mark and Martin founded the company. I was like, you understand that, right? He's like, I understand. And then get to the emails, and he's like, they didn't start the company, and he's kind of going off on that. And then the other thing was, he's like, you write in here that I take too much credit for doing the engineering at SpaceX. I was like, I didn't write that, Elon. This is like, what? This is a quote from an engineer. Like, he's allowed to have his opinion on stuff, and those were the things he was upset about. And then,
but otherwise, fine.
Yeah,
which is a huge achievement.
Dude,
he wrote gave you a pass mark.
He wrote me an email, which I like saved in case things got litigious, which was like, this is 95% accurate, which you would know for like Elon is.
Yeah.
He already hated journalists.
I remember you telling me that at the time, and I was like, well, that's an amazing result.
Right, and so it was mostly okay. Then like a week passed, and I think it was the Washington Post did a story like the 27 most outrageous things from this book, and
the Washington Post in its aggregation era, where everything had to be 27 things. To complement the Watergate reporting.
And exactly, and a big chunk of it was like what a pain in the ass he was to work for. And it's funny because like I think when he had read the book, none of that had really fazed him because he's actually kind of proud of being a tough boss. And then I think when he saw how the world was reacting to it. It was like in this moment where Tesla was starting to get a little competition, like hiring was a big thing, and I think he was worried that people weren't going to want to come work for him. And so, he went on this, he just flipped the switch, That was the first time I really experienced firsthand some of the things that I heard about where he was like, he's like, you're an asshole, I'm going to destroy your life. And
he said these things?
Like in emails. And then, and I figured he needed to vent for a little bit, but then he ended up hiring. So I had like a friend inside of Tesla. He's like, dude, he's just asked me to find like the world's best libel lawyer, and then I think actually there was a moment after I emailed it to him. I don't know if this is true. I've heard this. I've never like confirmed it with Elon, but I think he did ask somebody to find out if it was physically possible to buy every copy of the book worldwide and sort of like evaporate it. Yeah.
But wow. I mean, that's audacious, and I wonder if that would have been good or bad for you.
All the like in the moment.
Does he understand that publishers can print new copies?
Well, yeah, but he's like, there's sort of the emotional Elon, and then there's the very rational Elon, and he knew, like he was sending me all this stuff, but he knew that it is frightening, right? Because he was not the richest person in the world, but he had like $4 billion. Yeah, I was like, oh, like what? Same thing. One part of me is like, any of this is good. The more if he sues me, it's fantastic. I'll just sell more copies. But then you're like, God, he might actually like, I don't know what the publishers will do. Will they get my back? Will they not? He might actually bankrupt me.
What has happened to your relationship with Elon?
So it's funny. So we didn't speak at all for like 3 years, I would say, like 2015,
Just total
2018. I mean, I would
incommunicado.
Yeah, I think I was like, you need to chill out. I'm just gonna go over here. I can't remember. I feel like every now and then I would drop him a note, or SpaceX would like do a launch, and I'd be like, congratulations or whatever, and nothing really came back. And then around 2018, I was in New Zealand working on great country
where all the healing happens.
Yes, and I was
okay. We've been served another drink here. I just want to. We didn't order this, but I think this is because we're such good Patreon.
I gave the sign
for the other leg.
Thank you. Cheers. So it was like 2018. I just started working on. I don't think I knew it would become a book, but I'd gotten interested in space. Like SpaceX was always kind of my favorite part of the reporting, and I just got dragged into this like new era of commercial space. And there's a company in New Zealand called Rocket Lab, and
a dude named Peter Beck.
Peter Beck. I got interested in Peter, and Rocket Lab was like just starting to kind of get going. I was like, who is this dude in the middle of nowhere? Actually seems to have a rocket company going. And so I'd gone to see Peter, and I was staying at like an Airbnb, and same thing. It was like Elon Musk call on my phone. The last thing I think he had said to me was like, the equivalent of I want you to die. Destroy it. And he was like, hey, you're in New Zealand. He's like, I've never been. I always wanted to like reenact the FBI raid on Kim.com. So that was like the first thing coming out of his mouth. And I was like, okay, man, whatever. And we're not gonna talk about what has transpired or anything, And
what about the fatwa you were speaking on me 3 years ago?
And I think the Model 3, they were like, Tesla was like just getting out of kind of the worst of that, and he's like, look, man.
You mean the worst of production? How making the Model 3 was a huge torment for Tesla?
Exactly, and he's like, look, you're one of the few people on Earth that actually knows the history of this company and like what it would entail to get through this. Do you want to come like speak to all the people who worked on getting this through? And I was like, sure. I sort of stopped reporting on anything SpaceX, Tesla, Elon, because it was like PTSD, and I just didn't want to do it. So that was
the feeling.
But I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then we like sort of shot the shit for a little bit. It was totally as if nothing had ever happened. So that sort of like started to open the doors of communication. Then like one day, it was in our Twitter DMs. Like, so then we just kind of like started, not a lot, but just every now and then dropping notes. And then he sent some note that was like, I don't want to put words in his mouth that I don't remember exactly, but it was to the effect of I understand now, like sort of what this book did, and that he was basically like, you did a good job, and I don't know, whatever had happened, he seemed to have gotten over it. And then we're still not like, it's not like we're friends or anything, but we communicate. And then I've been working on a I got really into Neuralink. And so sort of in that moment, I was like, hey, I'm into Neuralink. Can I start showing up? And they had not, and still have never let any other journalist in. He's like, you can just go whenever you want. I was like, what do you mean? He's like, just whatever you want to do. And so we just started showing up at Neuralink. I ended up writing some features, and then now we're working on a documentary that's on Neuralink. So
what's the story?
I mean, it's like following a lot of the patients, and then also like the story of Neuralink.
That let's have
all right.
if you will, just
should.
Cheers.
And I don't know why I thought it was okay, but I just went in and was smoking pot with them, and
they didn't ask you who you were or what you're doing there?
No, they were just like hanging out, and I just hung out. And then I showed them my list, and number one on my list was to see a blue whale, which I have done.
You have done? Where'd you do that?
Just out in Monterey.
Ah.
Yeah, nearby. And then number two was to smoke pot with the black crows, and I showed them.
How like that was honestly the number two on your bucket list?
I really like the black crows.
How many items on your bucket list?
It was like up to about 10. But
shit.
Yeah.
You started Core Memory, which is video, it's shows, it's a kind of documentary, it's podcast on video as well, interviews, and it's scoops. And it's feature writing, which is a lot, especially
busy, man.
especially given that your name is on all of that stuff. You started hiring people. This is cool. You're building up a new kind of institution. But what is that institution you're trying to build?
Yeah, it's like at the beginning, I think it just started this is all stuff I'm fascinated by. I think it did come from this roots of what you talk about. I'm curious. I want to go explore this world. I think as this year's gone on, it's clearer in my head. I think we're almost like 6-7 years out of where the world is going, but because I've done this for so long and know so many people, you get to ride along on this journey and have this window.
You mean you're 6 or 7 years ahead of what like mainstream culture is going to catch up on?
And especially where tech is going, and so we kind of give you this we get to transport you into where the future is going, and so I enjoy eccentric, weird people, and I'm not terribly judgmental on them.
Cheers to Fred's place.
and I like people to hear what those kinds of people think, and then you can make up your own mind as to whether you think that's horrible or good or interesting. And so it's giving people access to biotech, to hardware, to AI, all these different fronts. And I don't know, it took me 20 years, man, but I ended up with this network where it's like, you'll see a ton of our stories. I'm in some secret lab that nobody else knows about till we write the story, and now you get to see it. We get to take a camera in places that other people don't get to go, and then we have the luxury of doing, people haven't seen it yet because we've only been going for a year, but like the Neuralink film is one of several where these multi-year...
So Neuralink documentary is a Core Memory project.
Like we're backing it. Hopefully that will air somewhere like Netflix or Apple or HBO.
Yeah. But backing it means you're financing it, you're making it, you're producing it.
So I've done 2 documentaries, one for HBO, one for Netflix.
You should name the documentaries.
Wild Wild Space on HBO.
Which is based on which is companion to your book.
When the Heavens went on sale. And then I did one on Brian Johnson called Don't Die. And
Brian Johnson is the longevity obsessive guy.
Yeah. And both of those were really independently funded, and it's really hard to do, but that's what I found I like to do, which is it's super high risk because you're doing this multi-year project. You're probably going to spend between $1 and $3 million and then hope that you can sell it at the end, but you get to control the story. I like to keep costs down along the way on how you get to control how it gets made. And so we have multiple bets like that are taking place at the same time. And then we do our video series, which we self-fund, and I run around the world interviewing.
Yeah. Which is there's sort of an extension, a continuation of Hello World, which we mentioned earlier, which is a Anthony Bourdain style, like go into tech ecosystems in various parts of the world and go deep in the characters there. Yeah.
I mean, it's like it's like a travel tech show. Yeah, at its heart. Yeah.
Were you like just looking for an excuse to travel the world and meet the world's most fascinating people, or were you like, no, this show has to be made because no one's doing it, with some combination?
It was a bit of both. I'd done this really specific story on this game called EVE Online, which is a very weird cultish space battle game that started in Iceland, and I'd gone to report it for Business Week, and I ended up in this van. Eve Online has this like.
Were you in a jacket that had the arms behind?
More or less. There's the company that runs it, but this game has no real rules or mechanisms, and so, but you can kind of like nudge it in directions, and they have these players who are on the special council who get to help nudge it. And I ended up in a van with the special council, and we were going to look for the Northern Lights in Iceland, and I was like, I can write it, but the discussions in the car were insane. I was like, I could write about this, but I could not do justice to what is happening as we're like looking for elves on our way to the Northern Lights with this like sci-fi guys fighting with each other.
And you're a pure writer up until this point.
To that point, yeah.
And writer people are not typically video people.
No, I was like scary, and I was just like this, and then I was like, yeah, there's 800 food travel shows, but I'm basically at that point I was just about the only person in the world who got to, like, because of Bloomberg, got to go all around the world and see these things. And so I was like, somebody should film this. This would be better. And so we floated the idea. Some people in Bloomberg were like, this will never work. Understandably, you have no idea what you're doing. We started with like 4 or 5 people that had never made a TV show before. And we
it's always the best way.
ran off and shot 10 episodes. We ended up getting nominated for an Emmy for science reporting our first year. And it was the most watched show Bloomberg had made by literally, I think it was like 10,000x the second show. Yeah.
10,000x?
Yeah, because we were like
multiply it by 10,000.
Like not many people watch Bloomberg TV, and we were the first to like really hit on YouTube for any Bloomberg thing. So the numbers were we were getting millions of views versus like, tens of thousands.
But these shows you're making have a shelf life as well. And they live on YouTube, they live on your Substack, the Substack presence for Core Memory. And you do have this base of audience that is devoted to you, that you have a direct relationship with.
100%.
Which gives you some insurance.
Yeah, and like, I wouldn't be doing this. I could be foolish. I don't think we'll end up. I wouldn't be doing it if I just didn't believe if you make quality over time, it bears out, and you don't even have to have the world's biggest. It doesn't have to be like even a massive audience. You know what I mean? I need the smart, curious, like just enough of it to kind of
the believers.
Yeah, you know what? Just enough to, because I think it's a very high. Like I look at my Substack like subscribers as like the world's top
smartest,
scientists,
most handsome people.
Yes, like it's like incredible. Sometimes it's hard to it's like I'll be talking to someone about breaking a story. I still have this conversation. It's like, oh, we would really like to see this like with the New York Times or the Bloomberg masthead on it, you know, and I'm like, okay, well, that's not going to happen. And do you guys understand that I have collected, all the world's people that you actually care about into this one spot, and even from like the first month I started on I know how many readers. I had all the Bloomberg stats. It's like people grossly overestimate how many views stories on some of those platforms are getting, because from the first month we were doing like 6, 7, 8 times as many on
on Substack.
100%. Yeah,
that's awesome. And it's people who don't know the media as well. They over optimize for these brands that were prestigious in the last century, not knowing that they're not only not reaching a wide audience, they're not reaching the right audience.
Yeah, and I've had a thing where I had a huge.
Sorry, traditional media folk.
I mean, it's just true. I mean, I've got a story I've been haggling about with someone right now, and it's like, they want to have the Times or Bloomberg on there because they're like, oh, well, we want SEO for jobs for our new hires and stuff. I'm like, guys, do you know how the internet, like everyone on earth is going to read this story? I mean, you guys are, sometimes I feel like it's like the PR people are still.
That's from the old world.
In that old world. And they're like talking to these guys. Because I'm like, that what you're saying makes no sense. It's just not objectively true.
In their defense, the world has changed fast. Yeah. Like the YouTube taking over televisions, taking over the living room, which is now a true undeniable thing. Happened pretty quickly. At the most you could say it's over 10 years, but even 10 years is a short time given the whole life of media. And people who are in the industries who still write about themselves, they're so invested in that way of being. And like, I subscribe to all the media newsletters. I need to. The degree to which they freak out over who's running a terrestrial television station is absurd relative to its influence and relevance.
Yeah, 100%. And like it's even, I was already in YouTube land from doing Hello World, which was like really where most people saw it, but I never had access to Bloomberg's statistics.
I watched it all on Bloomberg TV.
I never had access to the numbers, So when we first started our YouTube channel and I saw like 65% were watching on TV, I mean, that was like blew me away.
Watching the YouTube show on TV.
On a television. And I was like, oh, that just got me so excited because we make a show that's like way better to be seen on a TV. But I would have, if I go into that, I would have guessed like 15%.
So arguably, like, it's not that people stopped wanting good, well-made TV shows.
Yeah.
They stopped wanting the old format of television, the old business model of television. They still want YouTube. They really want YouTube. They really want good video. They really want good storytelling. They really want craft. But they're not going to go like to cable television to find it.
No, I think you're right. I even see it in like there's just these two worlds and they're sort of fighting. Like when I hang out with my documentary friends who do the prestige documentaries, it's just like they think YouTube is just garbage. They're so loath to like get in that world. There's this weird economic model around documentaries where production companies just like it's just the way things got set up over time. You just like grossly overcharge for all these services so you can kind of like you pad out the budget so that your company can survive. Whereas like on YouTube it's very direct. It's like I spend this amount of money, I get this amount of money for my views, maybe a sponsor. It's like you don't have to be sort of taking a little money from Disney here and all over there and these two worlds have been separated, and it was only by doing Hello World and then doing a couple documentaries where I was like, oh, this is messed up, man, because we do Hello World for this much money, and it's really just like a short version of a documentary. I'm like, we don't, you could do really high quality stuff without getting involved in all this other bureaucracy and overhead.
Exactly. The two worlds can learn from each other.
They will, right? Eventually, but it's like the Hollywood doc people are still like hanging on, and then the YouTube people don't want to go like sort of the traditional doc route, but this will blend, for sure. So you kind of finish throwing up, and then I remember I closed my eyes, and the weirdest thing about it was like auditorily hallucinatory. Like, I remember she had a bee, and I could follow the bee. Like I had like a.
What do you mean she had a bee?
Well, she was on this sort of farm, and so she had lots of bees. But I could follow one bee with my ears, like everywhere. I locked into it, and it was just going around. And then she had sort of a assistant, and they started singing, and they were on either side of me. And the weirdest part was it was like stereo into my brain. Like each of them singing. It was.
Were they
harmonized? It's hard to explain. No, I mean, it just like felt like you could feel their voice, each one independently going in one ear. And then she kind of takes you on this, like, we were filming, and then she sent all the camera people away. She's like, this is the serious part. We did kind of like a psychological, she's like, what do you want to talk about? And we worked through some things. And then
off camera?
Yeah. And then I just took a nap. And then when I woke up, everybody came back and they were all laughing at me. She's like, oh, you have the face of the frog. And I didn't know what that meant until I saw
Could be construed as an insult.
A mirror. All my lips were swollen. My cheeks were so swollen I could barely see out of them. And she said, this happens to some people. You get super swollen. And then I'd had to fast before we did this. And so we kind of I'd been there for a couple hours. We left. I just got super hungry and we went out to eat lunch. Everyone kept laughing in my face. And then I had the best nap I've ever had in my life, like 4 hours. And then to your question, I like sort of came out and you felt just like you'd been sort of rebooted.
Fuck.
Yeah, it was
That's
good.
a pretty good advertisement. What has changed for you to go from this position from being an employed journalist at institutions to being an owner?
Super weird. It's like exhilarating. It's been an incredible amount of work. I think just to get this off the ground, I had to be the face of things because people were kind of coming from my writing voice. They were coming from my video voice. I was just spent all these years building some kind of reputation. I think I'm not sure it's like sustainable, and I'm hiring writers. We're having we'll have other people doing video podcasts. That's the way it should go because it's like I want to build a bigger thing. And so anyway, so this first year, it's been exhilarating. It was a lot of work. It was like so, I had
You almost said fulfilling.
It is. I will. I had the best job in media.
Yeah.
I think like Bloomberg paid me really well to do whatever I was the last
to talk to the world's most fascinating people in depth.
And I had the last cushy magazine writer job where I could go to Ukraine. I didn't even have to clear it with anyone. I could hang out there for 2 weeks. I could take a year to file the story. No one said anything. It was like that used to be the norm for lots of people. I think I probably literally might be the last person to do that. So it was a hard job to walk away from. But it was like this day one. This is not like a Substack ad at all. It's just like you write it.
Incidentally, a Substack ad.
But I mean, you write a story and you see people read it. You get feedback. You see money come in for your effort, right? It's like totally different to a paycheck. It was just and then we've been building this team, so it's just been. I wish I'd done this a lot sooner because I think this was always kind of in me. I don't think it's like probably in everybody. You know,
That's
it's
true.
like you do have to be a little bit of an entrepreneur, and I was always that way with I was always doing books on the side, documentaries on the side, and like sometimes there'd be tension of how many things I was doing on the side. And so I think that was kind of in me. So it's been awesome. It's a little horrifying. You leave your super steady job that I probably could have had for the rest of my life and then have to like survive and like what we do.
You need the support of your family.
100%. Like my wife is a saint because I'm only home like half the time, and then what we do, because we do more video than a lot of people and it's expensive, so like you have to sustain that, but it's been really cool, and I think we're like it's almost like it's like literally in 4 days it'll be a year since we started. So we launched so much stuff, and it's just I wish I'd done sooner. I like wouldn't go back.
Well, it's impressive to see you here, like with such energy on a morning on a Tuesday in a bar in Mountain View. Given how much you take on, like I see, I mean, your name. You are writing a lot. You are reporting a lot, and you're making videos, and you're making documentaries, and you're running a company. So I salute that. Thanks for showing the way for other people.
I mean, we're not even noon yet. We still have time to do more shots, man.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers, man. Cheers. Thanks, Irish.